Sherrilyn Ifill, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the name of your organization, just so that people don't get confused. There is the NAACP and there is the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Both very similar sounding names, obviously, but two distinct and different organizations. What is the NAACP Legal Defense Fund?
So the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was formed in 1940 by Thurgood Marshall, the trailblazing civil rights lawyer, first Black justice on the United States Supreme Court. We were part of the NAACP when we were first created. We separated and became completely separated by 1957. We were the Legal Defense Fund, which we are sometimes called, was the legal arm of the civil rights movement. So we represented John Lewis, the Selma Marchers, the Freedom Riders, Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycotters. We represented Muhammad Ali when he wanted to get his boxing license back. We have always been that legal arm of the civil rights struggle. The NAACP is a large membership mobilizing grassroots organization. We don't have members. We're largely a legal organization.
It feels like 2020 has thrust this organization back into the limelight in a way that I guess no one would have wanted, really, or expected. What have you seen this year that has been different to maybe the past decade even?
Well, it's interesting. The best of civil rights progress in this country has always happened when their alchemy of several things all connect together. So grassroots mobilization and protest, when, legal organizations are firing on all cylinders. And I think really for the last 3 years, people have recognized the importance of civil rights lawyers again. And when there is kind of a political moment, when all of those things are happening at the same time, that's what was happening during the civil rights movement. And it is essentially the recipe for change and for transformation. So there's a lot that's similar. The part that's different, and this is really important, is that certainly throughout the 20th century, and most importantly in the civil rights movement, when Black people faced a challenge to our rights as full citizens, it largely came from state actors, the state of Alabama, the state of Mississippi,
Right.
Local sheriffs, governors, and so forth. And the place that people went to for recourse was the federal government, right? What is different is that this is the first moment, certainly in my lifetime, that I can recall, when not only is the federal government not a recourse, not only is Attorney General Barr not trying to advance civil rights, they're actually standing against it. They actually have a program to roll back civil rights. And they also are some of the biggest instigators of a kind of anti-civil rights and frankly, white supremacist ideology that has kind of recaptured so much of this country. So that is different than it was in the past and many degrees more dangerous in my view. But I also think that, we're not quite there yet. So far, the law has been holding. Now, it's not great. We've lost, a good number of cases. Frankly, some of them we were losing before Trump was elected. We should recognize that the case that kind of really reopened voter suppression in the country was decided by the Supreme Court in 2013. So this is not all created by President Trump. There was this move towards more conservatism, but we will really see whether the center holds, I think, in the coming year. And that's why this moment is so powerful and so important. We're in courts every day. We still win cases. But we also lose cases, and we also increasingly see courts acting in a way that does not adhere to the rule of law.
There are many people who may say, I'm confused. Why would you need civil rights lawyers? I mean, wasn't civil rights settled in 1965? Black people are free now. Gay people have equal marriage. I mean, why does anybody need to be a civil rights lawyer at this point? If you were to distill it down and give us a few examples, what are some of the concrete things that your organization is fighting for on the ground?
We represent those who are most marginalized, those who are at the bottom. And so we're actually the early warning system for our democracy. And frankly, would many people have listened to the call we were making, we might not be in the circumstance that we're in. So when you are facing, voter purges, when you are finding that the state doesn't permit you to absentee vote or requires you to get 2 signatures of 2 witnesses during a pandemic in order to cast your absentee ballot, when you discover that you have been convicted of a crime and the prosecutor removed all Black people from the jury, when you're sentenced to death, and an expert witness says you should be sentenced to death because you're more likely to be dangerous in the future simply because you're Black. When you don't have access to equal education and you can't access the internet during a period in which we've gone to virtual school, when you're caught in prison during COVID in inhumane conditions, All of these are things that are currently on our docket. But the important takeaway is it's never over, because you have to keep pressing on a democracy. You have to keep pushing to move it forward, and you have to keep defending what you won in the past. And this moment is a time when I think Americans have to recognize that democracy is work. It's not just a privilege that you sit back and smoke a cigarette and say, I live in a democracy. You have to work all the time. And that's the price of living in a democracy, is active citizenship.
If somebody's watching this right now and they want to chip in, they want to help, they want to get information on what their rights are, they want to get information on voting, where can they go? How do they get the information? How do they keep in touch with the Legal Defense Fund?
So first of all, for voting at naacpldf.org. It's really, really important. It's a microsite that's got everything you need to know about voting this year. You can go to our website, at www.naacpldf.org. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. This is about good information. We think this is the most important thing at this moment because, unfortunately, disinformation is part of the tactic that we're seeing the other side use. And so for us, it's important as a nonpartisan organization to provide good, solid information for people who believe in democracy, for people who want to be good citizens, and most of all, for the Black community that needs to be able to be in position to mobilize and exercise political power.
I thank you for the work that you're doing. I know that a lot of people who watch the show appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Thank you, Trevor.